Our guest is Ralph Bivins. He is the editor of Realty News Report. It's a tremendous publication, and we're going to tell, if you don't get Realty News Report right now, we're going to tell you how to get that. In the meantime, Ralph is also the author of Houston 2020. Ralph knows what's going on in the real estate world, both residential and commercial. He has his finger on the pulse in a tremendous way. Ralph, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bill. Great to be here.
And I always wonder, as I look at Realty News Report and see your latest bullet points, they are fascinating, insightful. You seem to know what's going on all the time here in Houston, even what's around the corner sometimes. But first of all, before we talk about your publication, how do you keep track of everything, and how do you know all this and are able to give that to us out here as we look for your report every week?
We get a lot of reports from really top-notch organizations, and so it comes from people who have their fingers on the street level, and filters up to me. So I can't take much credit. That I just know what I observe, and a lot of good information to people who've been in the journalism biz like me for a while.
And that's a good point. Let's also talk about your background, because that is one of the keys. You have been in the real estate world and journalism for so many years. Tell people about your background, some of those important points.
Got on the real estate beat when I was at the San Antonio Express News a few decades ago. Came to Houston Chronicle, was there for quite a while, and we launched the Realty News Report over 10 years ago, and it's done well. And we like Texas. We're native Texans. So.
And let's tell people, in case they don't know about Realty News Report, you really have tremendous information all the time, surprising things. As far as the publication, describe it for those that may not have read your report.
Well, we have a lot of news on the website, realtynewsreport.com. Anybody can go there. It's open to the public 24/7. Just realtynewsreport.com, and you can go there. We also have, a newsletter. Goes out once a week and be a little bit more in depth and things. And you can subscribe to that if you go to realtynewsreport.com and just find our newsletter. And of course, we recently started, a podcast, adding a different element and different medium sort of to our. It's going good.
And how long have you had the podcast, Ralph?
About a month and a half. And it's just going pretty well. We've had some great guests. Chip Colville from Cushman and Wakefield, who's, he's leased space in almost every big skyscraper in downtown Houston. So he knows what's happening there. And of course, that's a good conversation, because the office market, all these office buildings are in a tough spot right now, pretty much, because so many tenants are on hold and companies aren't moving, and people are, the oil companies are laying off people. So there's a lot of question marks. So. Lacey Jacobs of Midway, and Midway is, they did City Center there on Katy Freeway at the tollway. They've also have a pretty major project on the east side that's just coming out of the ground, 150 acres, a little bit less than a mile from the eastern edge of downtown Houston. It used to be the Brown and Root facility. It's got a mile of frontage on Buffalo Bayou. It's going to be transformative for the east side, really, truly transformative. Oh, one interesting thing they just recently have done at East River, they call it, they took a bunch of, those containers, those metal containers that on the back of 18-wheelers and shipping and at the port, everything. They've stacked them up, tied them together, and put a screen on there. They're making it into a drive-in movie that's be something that the community can enjoy for a couple of years, a year or two, until things start happening more on that property.
And going back to the commercial aspects, the people in the commercial world of real estate, what are some of the things that they're expecting? Are they telling you what they think's around the corner as best they can guess and speculate? I know there's the term repurposing has come up a lot, but in the commercial world, what are these people telling you about how bad it is, or when it's going to turn around, and some of the other positive things?
Well, one thing is that with the retail, with the malls, there's been so much. Bed Bath and Beyond's gone, Palais Royal's gone, Sears is shrunk, J.C. Penney's is closed. There's scads of stores have closed, and all of them, many of them are facing tremendous amount of pressure from online sales, online retail, and that's the amount of Christmas shopping that's going to be done, holiday season shopping that's going to be done is going way up this year. The pandemic has accentuated this shift towards online sales, so maybe 40% of Christmas sales will be online sales. That's not good for the malls. The retail malls are in tough shape. The ones that the neighborhood type of center with the grocery store, that's okay, but the rest of them are feeling pressure, and the owners of them are feeling pressure because the stores and the restaurants there they can't pay rent. They don't have enough customers. They're not selling enough stuff. So that's kind of a big problem, and we will see probably some transformation going on with some of those properties. There's big regional mall there that where the big anchor stores have closed. Why not? Why can't we change some of those spaces into apartments or even warehouses themselves? There's also reports that in some of these malls around the nation right now, Amazon itself says, "Hey, we need to have more and more warehouses close to the neighborhoods because our business is growing so much. They might take over a former, who knows, former Macy's, a former J.C. Penney or whatever, former Sears, and put in a distribution facility there in the mall. There's other uses happening, and it's being talked about and it's started everywhere. And they're in trouble. They're in trouble. And some of those mall owners are in serious shape.
And as far as residential real estate, Ralph, what are some of the trends that you're seeing there? And what are some of the things you think we can expect to see in the next couple months or so?
I think it's continued strength. Residential is strong in terms of residential sales. Millennials are there now. They're ready to move. They're ready to get out of the urban areas. And on a national level, this is true. Who wants to be living in a high-rise tower in New York City where you got to get on an elevator with strangers every day and ride the subway to work? That's really true in that area. It's a big exodus, is the migration, but it's true that migration is happening from the coast. It's coming to places like Texas. Companies are coming here, jobs are coming here, housing's coming here. Housing's going to continue to be strong. And there's so many experts there, and it's one thing I do disagree with some of the experts on. They think that Houston, that their inventory is going to be outstripped and it's going to knock down sales somewhat. But I've never bought into that. I think the demand is so strong with 3% interest rates and lower. There's not going to be an inventory problem. It's going to be tougher in some places. It's going to be tighter. I think that sales will continue to grow. Big deal. Land way out in surrounding counties, surrounding Harris County in the core of Houston. Land is hot. Subdivision developers are out there buying land, looking for land. They're looking for places to build houses, start small subdivisions and 1,000-acre master plan communities. That land is there. The builders are having a great year, and it's driven by rates, and it's driven by people that are now, the work from home thing is fundamentally changing everything right now. Everything on the commercial side in office buildings, that's in the work from home trend is changing that. And then it's changing on the residential side, as people say, well, I'm only have to go in the office 3 days a week, so I don't mind driving in, having an hour-long commute 3 days a week. And I need a bigger house now. So they move, they get new construction homes farther from town, farther from the city, where they can get more square footage for their money, have a home office, place for the kids if the children are having to do school virtually or whatever. It's so that they need more space and they can get it in the suburbs. So the builders are building as fast as they can. There's a shortage of lumber, there's a shortage of lots, and
That's right.
it's serious.
We are talking with Ralph Bivins. He is the editor of Realty News Report. You can go to realtynewsreport.com. Ralph, we have about a minute left. Certainly, you wrote the book a while back, Houston 2020. You still have tremendous relevant information as you highlight the spirit of Houston. You also talk about the different areas, the Galleria, the Energy Corridor, history of Houston. It really is a tremendous book. It's called Houston 2020. Let's tell people also, Ralph, the name of your podcast, and in the next 30 seconds, what else you'd like them to know. But let's tell them the name of the podcast. And again, the website is realtynewsreport.com. You could subscribe to the newsletter, see all the things coming up. And the name of the podcast, Ralph, is?
Name of the podcast is The Ralph Bivins Project. You can find it, links to the podcast we've done at the very bottom of my website, realtynewsreport.com. Go down there. There'll be links to the podcast. We're adding more. We have a really good one that's going to be posted right after the election, so be watching for that. And the book, Houston 2020, it's available on Amazon still. There's still relevant information. A lot has changed because of the pandemic. But there's still relevant information there.
In fact, last night I went back to certain parts of the book knowing I was going to talk with you, and it is great information. And the very beginning, I love that first part where you talk about the spirit of Houston and of Texas, and certainly that still maintains as we go forth. It'll be interesting to see what happens by next year at this time, all the changes and adjustments made. Ralph, once again, that website is realtynewsreport.com. They can learn everything there. And before we close, what else, Ralph?
Bill, I enjoyed your show that you had with Robert Duvall.
How about that?
That was fantastic. Yeah. He's one of my favorite actors. And I said, wow, man. So that's. I hope the Ralph Bivins Project gets to have some famous folks like that on our podcast sometime. But you do a great job. We appreciate you having me so much.
Super awesome. I'll tell Bob about you. Anyway, thank you so much. Ralph Bivins, check him out at realtynewsreport.com. Get the newsletter, and the podcast is the Ralph Bivins Project, right?
Project.
There you go.
Project.
Thanks, Ralph.
Hey, Bill.